North Sudan is within the Sahel area, which extends more than 6,500 miles from the east coast to the west coast of Africa. It's semi-tropical. It separates the desert, the Sahara Desert, and the African savannas. The Nile River enters from the north and separates the Libyan and Nubian deserts areas. The Nile extends as far as Khartoum, where it splits becomes the White Nile and the Blue Nile. Al-Masrat al-Safra ruins. Sokin Island ruins. Kerma ruins. Temple of Ammon, ancient city of Naga. Sudan National Museum. Dongola, the elderly mosque, the second oldest mosque in Africa. Su al-Arabi in Khartoum Market. The Khartoum University. Nile Street in Khartoum. Arab incursion into Sudan started in the 11th century AD from Egypt through the Poncaras, Dongola and Suba.
is made out of a thin sorghum flour. We have asida, which is also a staple, also made out of sorghum or millet. And then we have gurasa, and so with these three, we eat it with malah, which is a type of stew. Malah rizla, weka, bamia, umrigega, mulahia, rob. We have kamonia, which is my personal fave, but it's not everyone's cup of tea because it's made out of intestines. Goat and sheep would be like the most favored types of meat in Sudan. So we have agache, which is a type of roasted meat with peanuts. And quick side story, my dad used to cook it out of his van and sell it. Shatta is huge in Sudanese culture. It's like hot sauce, but way hotter. I definitely try Sudanese falafel. This one is like very flat and also a lot crispier. And if you see grasshoppers, definitely give it a try. For drinks, Sudanese people are big tea drinkers. We'll drink it with breakfast, lunch, dinner. So we have ibre, we have karkade. It's kind of dried and soaked flour. Just to wrap up our food segment, we have the tabak, which you can use to cover up food.
Enjoy the wonderful landscapes that is North Sudan. Enjoy the views of the ancient mosque of North Sudan. North Sudan, its future is in the hands of its people. North Sudan is within the Sahel area, which extends more than 6,500 miles from the east coast to the west coast of Africa. It's semi-tropical. It separates the desert, the Sahara Desert, and the African savannas. The Nile River enters from the north and separates the Libyan and Nubian deserts areas. The Nile extends as far as Khartoum, where it splits becomes the White Nile and the Blue Nile. Al Masrat Al Safra ruins. Sukin Island ruins. Kerma ruins. Temple of Ammon, ancient city of Naga. Sudan National Museum. Dongola, the elderly mosque, the second oldest mosque in Africa. Su al-Arabi in Khartoum Market. The Khartoum University. Nile Street in Khartoum. Arab incursion into Sudan started in the 11th century AD from Egypt through the Poncaris, Dongola and Suba.
Which is made out of a thin sorghum flour. We have asida, which is also a staple, also made out of sorghum or millet. And then we have gurasa, and so with these three we eat it with munah, which is a type of stew. Munah rizla, weka, bamia, umrigega, munakhiya, rob. We have kumonia, which is my personal fave, but it's not everyone's cup of tea because it's made out of intestines. Goat and sheep would be like the most favored types of meat in Sudan. So we have agache, which is a type of roasted meat with peanuts. And quick side story, my dad used to cook it out of his van and sell it. Shatta is huge in Sudanese culture. It's like hot sauce but way hotter. I definitely try Sudanese falafel. This one is like very flat and also a lot crispier. And if you see grasshoppers, definitely give it a try. For drinks, Sudanese people are big tea drinkers. We'll drink it with breakfast, lunch, dinner. So we have ibre, we have karkade. It's kind of dried and soaked flour. Just to wrap up our food segment, we have the tabak, which you can use to cover up food.
Enjoy the wonderful landscapes that is North Sudan. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's making sure all is well. There we go. We keep going through, shall we? There we go. Good morning. Sorry, get that right. Good morning, everyone. How are you? This is the Motivator Show. This is where we translate our words into practice or actions, if you like, and where success is ours for the taking. And I know that having listened to that intro video and the feedback I've already received, that there's a clear understanding that these podcasts are designed to provide good quality information you can check and verify, and upon that verification, trust it's accurate and inspirational. The whole purpose of these programs are, of course, to inspire you to take actions to improve your personal circumstances and the circumstances of your family, your friends, and your networks. And in doing so, we transform the world together. Be in no doubt, we transform the world together. And in doing so, you create a better world for your children's and your children's children. It is our responsibility as the custodians of today's society, today's civilizations, to have a focus on the future, what we bequeath to the next generation. The most recent podcast have really focused on one country or two countries. That's, of course, Sudan. Sudan is an important country because the Sudans highlight the almost eclectic mixtures of peoples within one nation. And for those people to find peace so we can create prosperity for all. That is the prize. That is the prize. So before I go on, what I want to do is to really give you light to where you can contact this show. And of course, note where it is possible to see this show on different platforms. I'm going to put it up on the screen, and there you are. And hopefully that's come up on the screen for you. There you are. Hopefully it's come up. I'll make a slight adjustment, to its positioning for some reason. There we go. So what's important here is that these shows are seen across the piece, okay? That you could appreciate what we aim to achieve, and we most certainly will achieve those aims. That is to provide good quality information that transforms your lives. And in doing so, its purpose has been achieved, okay? Our purpose has been achieved. Okay? So I won't say much more than that. What I've got to do now, I'm going to move us forward because it's going to be really important for us to keep in mind those core objectives of the Motivator Show and why those objectives remain sacrosanct. They are sacrosanct. Regardless of all the pressures and otherwise, they remain sacrosanct. I will not be compromised or stopped. Okay, they will not be compromised or stopped. So let me move forward. So I really want to congratulate our contributors to these podcasts of last week. Okay, and our friends from South Sudan most certainly really gave an outstanding account of the peoples of South Sudan. I believe we may have a slight technical problem. Let me just check another detail here. One moment. There we go. I do want to make sure we are still transmitting live. It says we are. Can those of you in the chat just indicate you're receiving this transmission well? Just want to make sure we've got everything lined up here. For some reason, this end, I'm not getting a feedback. If you're in the chat, can I ask you to just indicate by leave the message in the chat, indicate that you're receiving us okay? Okay. Oh, I can see that someone's trying to come in very early. You're at least 30 minutes too early, but anyway. Let me just see if I can just check with the chat that you're receiving us A-OK. I'm just checking the other various platforms where we're on, and just to make sure that is well. Okay, that is well. Okay, that's fine. Let's press on. Let's press on. So I want to congratulate our, our contributors from South Sudan. And there was a clear message. Peace is the preferred option. I'm going to say that again. Peace is the preferred option. Yeah. Why any other option? Peace is the preferred option. Because through peace, you create a condition in which mutual respect and appreciation for your neighbors can thrive. And in doing so, you create a condition for which prosperity can be shared. And with prosperity, there is growth. You can thrive on the land. And that gives justifications for these podcasts. Yep, that gives justification for these podcasts. And thank you, that person has indicated. Thank you, thank you. So we move forward with intention, an intention to do good, an intention to heighten our appreciation of the diversity that's amongst us, the human species, the ethnic diversity. There's only one race, of course. Okay. And in achieving that outcome, what we were able to give testament to, that this generation put a line in the sand, because peace is what we want, so we can share prosperity amongst the wider populations. Peace, peace, peace. That's the goal. That is the goal. So thank you for my guest of my last podcast from South Sudan. And if you haven't watched it, well, go to the channel and you'll see the South Sudan interview. I recommend it. It's recommended watching. Recommended watching. Good on you. Good on you. Okay, now I've said that, I want to now move forward. I want to move forward just to ensure that we maintain a pace in this particular podcast, because it is going to be a tremendous experience. I want to now give focus to a number of other past contributors, and those contributors who have upheld the premise upon which these podcasts are communicated to you. I want to first, of course, and this is for me a very important step forward, because it allows me to give honor and appreciation. I want to give honor to my guest who we spoke about, a subject we in fact, the first time we've tackled it on the Motivator Show, that is not only our general health, but specifically the health of our gut. It starts from the mouth into your stomach, intestines, stomach, intestine, large and small, and of course we get rid of our waste. But keeping that tract healthy is vital to our wider general health and well-being. So I want to thank my guest for explaining what we need to do to maintain a healthy gut, and in doing so, to improve our overall health and well-being. That has got to be the aim. That is our aim, and I'm honored that our guest was able to communicate those messages in a form that all of us can understand, and I know that many have responded to. I want to thank you all for your responses, and I thank you all for your support. Thank you. Okay. Yes, thank you indeed. Thank you indeed. You have made a difference. You have made a difference. Okay. I also want to give light, of course, to that wonderful organization, the African Continental Unity Party, that is a Pan-Africanist party that seeks to achieve unity amongst Africans right across the African continent and the Caribbean. It is an important cog in the wheel towards African unity. Okay? I commend the African Continental Unity Party to you all as a party that seeks to overcome religious and ethnic divides, because the bigger prize is peace and prosperity for us all. I commend the African Continental Unity Party to you all as a unifying force, as we have unifying force here in Europe, in the Americas, in China, in Japan, in India, a unifying force there in Africa. Well done to you all. Well done to you all. Well done. Keep up the good works. Keep up the good works. All righty. So that's a few of our announcements. I now want to get into the health segment, because this segment is vital. Okay. I want you all to pay close attention to this health section, because it is vital, absolutely vital. Be in no doubt, it is vital. And if you're not paying close attention to your health, okay, then you're just taking chances. Why take chances when you can take deliberate actions to maintain a good, healthy lifestyle? But I know, like us all, it's good to have guidance, reminders, regular reminders, so that we can move forward with intention. But those who specialize and who are experts in the field are the ones to provide the substantive data, substantive information. So what we provide today is a general overview, but this is not a supplement for seeking out professional advice. But the general advice, you can get it here and now. The general advice applies to us all, even myself. Okay. So I want you to take on this general advice and listen keenly to what is being said, because this information is for you. And whilst this information will be focused on London, it nevertheless will be focused on you. There's no reason why you cannot benefit. In fact, you can benefit if you so choose, okay? You can benefit if you so choose. You've got to make that conscious decision that you will live a healthy lifestyle. So I commend this message to you right now. Listen keenly. Listen keenly. The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. Lifestyle messages. We ask that you consider the amount of sugar and salt consumed each day. There is a direct causal link between the overconsumption of sugar and type 2 diabetes, prevalent particularly in the African heritage communities. It is estimated that more than 2 in 4 have either a diagnosed condition of diabetes or an undiagnosed condition of diabetes. Here in Britain, the NHS spends more than £26 billion treating people with diabetes, which is a condition for life. Too much salt in our diet disrupts the natural sodium balance in the body. This causes fluid retention, which increases the blood pressure exerted by the blood against the blood vessel walls, or high blood pressure. The potential impact of too much salt can include enlarged heart muscles, headaches, heart failure, high blood pressure, kidney disease, kidney stones, osteoporosis, stomach cancer, and strokes. Another lifetime condition. We ask that you consider the amount of carbohydrate consumed each day. typically derived from wheat-based produce such as pasta and other related wheat-based products, and of course, root vegetables such as potatoes and the yam. And yes, I did say yams. Excess carbohydrates intake places a large metabolic load on the body. When the body constantly has high levels of blood sugars to deal with over time, this leads to weight gain, poor metabolic health, and an increased risk of heart disease. We ask you to consider the amount of fat that you consume each day. On the screen, you can see raw meat. Clearly, the red meat is meat, but the white streaks you see in the meat is fat. Our bodies need healthy fat for energy and other functions, but too much saturated fat can cause cholesterol to build up in your arteries, in other words, our blood vessels. Saturated fat raise your LDL or bad cholesterol levels. This can increase your risk of heart disease and neurological strokes. Too much fat is linked to increased risk of obesity or fatness, coronary heart disease, and certain types of cancers, such as breast and colon cancers. On the screen, you see a partially blocked arteries, mainly made up of fatty acids and other ingredients mentioned previously. The blood is being forced through the partial blockage by the heart. Another consequence is, of course, increased hypertension or high blood pressure. Examples of starchy foods include potatoes, bread, pasta, cereals, and rice. Excessive consumption of starch, scientific studies have shown, may cause insulin resistance, in other words, diabetes, may cause skin irritation, many of us will recognize as eczema, may cause gastrointestinal irritation. Many of us will recognize these conditions. On the screen, you can see the examples of the consequences of our lifestyle. Excessive consumption of sugar and salt, carbohydrates, and fat and starch. You see the young lady and gentleman with the bloated shoulders, bloated chest, bloated abdomen, bloated thighs, and bloated bottoms, or buttocks in polite company. The consequence of our lifestyle. The prevalence of obesity amongst black women in the United Kingdom is significantly higher compared to the general population. Approximately 58% of black women in Britain are classified as obese. This rate is considerably higher than the average obesity rate for women across all ethnicities in the UK, which currently stand at between 30 to 32%. This is a public health emergency. The prevalence of obesity amongst black men in Britain is also notably high. Approximately 38% of black men in the UK are classified as obese. This rate is higher than the average obesity rate for men across all ethnicities in the UK, which is around 27 to 29%. This is a public health emergency. The experts recommend that we should eat fresh, untainted foods, including tomatoes and oranges, melons and beetroot, noriega and avocados, grapes and apples, lemons and cabbages, lettuce and cherries, bananas and cucumber, and pears and onions, sweet corn and pineapples, carrots and cauliflower, garlic and sweet pepper, lemons and many other fruits and vegetables which are untainted and are good for you. The experts recommend that we should ensure that we consume between 2 to 3 litres of water per day. It does depend upon your height and your mass. You see on the screen a young man drinking his water, and a young lady enjoying her water. The advice given to you about our lifestyle will not mean anything to you unless you exercise. To exercise for life. You see the young lady with her weights, pumping her weights. You see the mature gentleman running with his headphones in with a smile on his face. You see a young lady running up and down those stairs. Oh yeah, that is real exercise. You see the young man pushing up and down with his push-ups. This is exercise. Our bodies need exercise. It is important for us always to consider our mental and spiritual health. If you have concerns about your mental health, please seek out professional advice or speak out to those you most trust. I trust that they will seek out the right advice and support for you. And of course, as human beings, we are truly spiritual entities. It is important to speak to your spiritual advisors. The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. Translate those words into actions. Absolutely. It is so true. It is so true. I know we're having some technical difficulty for some reason this morning, and I apologize for that, but we'll overcome these technical difficulties soon. We'll work out what's going on, but all is well, all is well. We move on with intention. So those messages are important because they address you. Your self-interest now comes into play, okay? Do you want to live a long, healthy life or one laden with illnesses and physical disabilities? So we have to take deliberate steps now, with a clear intention that we want to live a long, healthy life. You know? And even if we have a condition now, we can still, recover, be less burdened by illnesses. It is possible. And what I'm heartened by is the number of listeners, a number of viewers who have responded to these messages and understood the importance of understanding that you've got to be your own change maker. Reparation begins with self. The self-repair begins with your conscious decision. Upon making that conscious decision, anything is possible. So what I'm going to play for you, an example of a group of viewers to the Motivator Show who's responded positively to these key messages and understood it is our responsibility to effect changes in our lives. Why are these messages important? Because, this is for you. There is no personal profit in it for me. It is for you, to help you to make those good decisions for yourself. And in doing so, you transform, you transform your lives. So watch these group of people who've come together in common aim and common purpose, who lived up to the ideals of the Motivator Show, who've understood that working together, it's the only way forward. If you want to go fast, yeah, do it alone. But if you want to go far, we do it together. Watch this group of people who've come together with a clear intent that they want to go far and they want to go long. Watch this space.
Cheese. Famous. Hello, 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 hello. Awe, 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 awe. You get one life on leave. Me self get one life on leave. Why we no go use am gladdy and enjoy the time. Palava no dey finish, time me no dey wait nobody. Now why I dey try for always get am nice every day and night. This world where we all friend we safe, now nobody own. You want to eat with you much we go down you belly now you young. And the balance where you go die left now all the money on. So why for the greedy you say for? Now the motor car where you let buy am. If you see finance where you call it,
Come together, accommodating a common purpose.
you meet up woman where you let yanam. And if you let
They've
the
understood
man for
working
keep
together.
am.
Only
Want
way
them more. The food where you feel for eat some for eat am.
They've pulled in the
Eat am.
resources
That fine la power you let
and
na
they
for
now
buy am.
exercise together.
And tire more. And if you baby love you back love am. Love am. But if you love them all now you not for left am. Want them more. Cause nobody
Come
know.
together,
Nobody know what
common
you tomorrow old. So every day of my life till old. I fasting enjoyment stay
Transforming
go.
their
Never land for care for yourself. Nobody love you past yourself.
And they're having
All
fun.
man they fed
Even
for
the children
yourself.
there with them.
Now why I know they allowed with you other man they pan take me peace away. Me joy away. Me smile away. Oh no no. No make nobody take you peace away. Me joy away.
Yeah, many are sweating,
Me smile away.
but they know to
Oh
be
no
together.
no.
Go far.
Every day. I see they also they work for the pay. They like na boku on a small you the cage. Land for the loose body 110. No to money, no to gently. No money make motor man and bother. As long as you get waiting, you they eat. Land for the loose body 110. This one way we all friend we safe, now nobody own. You want to eat with you much we go down you belly now you young. And the balance where you go die left now all the money on. So why for the greedy you say for? Now the motor car where you let buy am. If you see finance where you call it deal am. Oh. You meet up woman where you let yanam. And if you let the man na for keep am. Want them more. The food where you feel for eat na for eat am. That fine la power you let na for buy am. And tire more. And if you baby love you back love am. But if you love them all now you not for left am. Want them more. Cause nobody know. Nobody know waiting tomorrow old. So every day of my life till old. I fasting enjoyment stay go. Now for land for care for yourself. Nobody love you past yourself. All man they fed for yourself. Oh. Now why I know they allowed with you other man they pan take me peace away. Me joy away. Me smile away. Oh no no. No make nobody take you peace away. Me joy away. Me smile away. Oh no no.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Isn't that a wonderful example of human endeavor? You know, discovering if you work together, you can achieve far more together than attempting to do it by yourself on your own. And yes, there are many who progress alone, by themselves, alone. Yeah, that is true. But real civilizations real general change in our conditions are achieved when we work together. Yeah. Regardless of your ethnicity or religious affiliation, when you work together with common aim and common purpose. That's when change actually occurs in your personal circumstances and indeed in your families and wider communities. We've got to work together. That's the theme for today's show. Yeah. Working together, it's the only way forward. Working together is the only way forward. Good, good. I know that's understood by many of you, but practice working together is a requirement, a prerequisite. Understanding that as being a fundamental tenet of your actions, working together with other human beings, and not necessarily with your immediate ethnicity or religious affiliation, yeah, or tribal affiliation, yeah. It's really being able to reach out to other human beings and work collectively. It's the only way forward. And all the current turmoil going on in the world, where you're putting up barriers between peoples, clearly that's a retrograde step, a backward step. What it does, those barriers means it isolates you, not the people, it isolates you. And that country who's put up those barriers will find out very soon you're the ones who've been isolated. I won't get into that particular subject today, but it does. It does. You will see. We will all see the outcome of this strategy, this retrograde strategy. We'll see. We'll see. But we'll move forward with the Motivated Show. And I'm sorry for these slight technical difficulties, but we will overcome those technical difficulties. I'm sure we will understand them shortly. But I want to ensure, though, that these shows and the principles of these shows are understood by you all. Collaborative working, regardless of your religious affiliation, ethnic origins, collaborative working is the only way in which humanity can grow. Okay, just so we're clear, that's the only way forward. So we will move forward with intention, clear intention. So I want to set the scene today for what is to come. Throughout human history, we have found ourselves in strife. We've had periods of complete peace and harmony and cooperation, but mostly it's been strife as a direct result of our social immaturity, collective responsibility for these outcomes. We take a collective responsibility. We can't, you know, transfer the responsibility to others. Okay, we've got to accept responsibility for our own part in the outcomes that we experience. Okay, and I know many will say, "Oh, but others do to us." I say, well, that's true to a point, but gosh, uh, you collectively have got to make decisions that the land that you hold, to which your families are flourishing, must be protected. Yeah, from all incursions. Being able to defend yourself, is a critical part of maintaining a good society, a good civilization. But also reaching out to others in seeking understanding and appreciation is also another quality we need to continually exhibit. Because in doing so, we give ourselves the opportunity for growth. And growth isn't solely found within our own families. Growth is actually found, sustained growth is only actually found when many families work in concert, where they commune together, agree set of priorities, and work in concert together, moving forward. And that's particularly important, particularly when you have many ethnicities in the land. practicing high civilization, which is where cooperative and cooperation are centered, okay, is a must if you wish to retain peace and prosperity. And in my humble submission to you, that has got to be our focus. It is absolutely a focus for these transmissions. Yeah, peace and prosperity for all, not just for some. Yeah, not for that small minority, but for all. And together we can transform the world. It's not the responsibility of a small number of people. So you all have got to take some responsibility. Notwithstanding the challenges and the hardship that could cause, I get that. But we've still got to live up to those tenets, important tenets, to make us human beings, civilized human beings. Mhm. And together we can transform the world. I know that's a recurring theme. I've said it many times, but I've got to keep repeating it so it becomes part of our collective consciousness. Because that collective consciousness, if we seek out peace and prosperity for all, and that's a sincere endeavor, that all will join with that vision for the future, because it becomes their vision, their futures. So it has to be a consistent narrative. In the face of some intense opposition, because the minority just really wants to control, and I have no idea why, to be honest with you. Makes no sense. Makes no logical sense. Makes no logical sense. Civilizations are founded upon people coming together and working in cooperation with each other. You're skilled at that, I'm skilled at this. Yes, you can provide this, I can provide that. That mutual cooperation, okay, it's not founded on hubris, greed, purely. hmm Although that is a factor, mind you. Okay, okay, just to make it clear. But mutual respect is uppermost here. Mutual respect. And being able to demonstrate in practical ways that mutual respect for your neighbors, yeah, or people might look different or have different practices, but mutual respect is the tent upon which you operate, then anything is possible. Anything. The world is your oyster. And together you will transform your families, your communities, your societies. Mutual respect and cooperation. So you have to be determined. And we are very determined here on the Motivator Show to uphold those principles. We are very determined. And if you want to make a difference, reach out to a person or a family who you've not spoken to before and introduce yourself in love and respect. It may not happen on every occasion, but I bet you that person, that family will respond in kind. It may not happen on every occasion because some families, some individuals are sort of closed and they're myopic and they're short-sighted. That is true. But in the majority of cases, they will welcome your outstretched hands. They will welcome it and recognize it for what it is, an attempt at, well, communication. Yeah. A desire for kinship. hmm Yeah. A desire to understand and develop friendship, given the opportunity. From that, where the mutual cooperation is possible. And that is the difference between civilization and those who are not civilized. And you could argue that there are many characteristics of today's global societies, global civilization, which is very uncivilized. This is true. Admittedly, that is true. But there's significant evidence that our species is very civilized. And, and that growing sense of kinship amongst all human beings across all of our ethnicities who are an integral part of the human family. That is the hope for the future. And we build upon that in order for our children to thrive, our children's children to thrive. And they will appreciate the actions that we take today because of their long-term implications, consequences. Which is why today's show, which focuses and will focus on North Sudan, is important. It is a country still going through strife. Some of it homegrown, some of it externally fostered. Okay, but we're not going to focus on the strife today. We want to appreciate the people of North Sudan. In my last podcast, we did a focus on the people of South Sudan, and wasn't that a wonderful occasion? We began to appreciate them for who they are as people, human beings. And you discover that we all have so much in common. We have so much in common. So much in common. But it can be easily lost if we take our eyes off the prize. So for today's podcast, we want to focus on the people of North Sudan. And we want to understand who they are, as we did in the last podcast, find out a bit, understand some of their customs and practices, understand what they eat, what they wear, when they wear, and what they eat, and when they eat, types of food, and I can show you some of the food from Sudan is quite outstanding. I'm assuring you, it is outstanding, absolutely outstanding food, wonderful food. Okay. So what I'm going to do is bring my guest in, and I know we're experiencing some technical difficulties, so please bear with us. But this will be truly an inspirational experience. But let's see if I can bring my guest in now. Let's see if this will work. Can I bring my first guest in? My second guest, if I can bring my second guest in now as well. Hopefully this will work. My second guest will be on my left. Oh, wonderful. Two bright faces are looking at me. Wonderful. Now then, I hope that I'm overcoming some of our technical challenges this morning, but it is well. We are very determined people, are we not? We're determined people, are we not? You thought
must be.
Absolutely. We're determined people. We can overcome all obstacles, and that is a quality of being an African. Okay, absolutely. Notwithstanding all the wonderful ethnicities around the world, but absolutely, it's a characteristic of being Africans. Okay, the first peoples, the first humans. Okay, so I'm going to go straight into this because this is going to be truly interesting experience. Before I begin, I'm going to reframe where we are. I'm going to create another scene for us. There we go. It can get you all in here. Just a second. I'm going to bring you in here. There you are, and you in here. Over there, and I believe we're going to have someone in the middle will join us momentarily. I hope a surprise guest, but I think you both know them. Don't you worry. Okay, so let's hold on. So let's go right into this because this is going to be truly interesting. So I'm going to ask first of you, I'm going to ask you both to introduce yourselves. So I'm going to ask my guest Hind, I'm going to ask you go first. Just introduce yourself. Just say your name, the organization that you belong to, and I might ask you when concluding, and if I can be a little naughty, I'm going to ask you to say who most inspired you. Who's your greatest inspiration? Okay, over to you, Hen. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. My name is Hind, Hind Khairallah. I am a Sudanese young lady living in London. I work for the African Foundation for Development as a program
I'm really sorry,
consultant.
Hen. I'm going to ask you just to turn up your volume. Your volume. Yes.
Absolutely. Is it clear
Yep.
now?
Yep. That's better.
All
Keep going.
right.
That's right.
Yeah,
Perfect. Keep
sorry
going.
about
Yep.
that. So,
It's okay.
yeah, my name is Hind. I'm a program development consultant. I work for a few organizations. One of them is African Foundation for Development, and I also run my own NGO based in Sudan and Chad.
Oh wow, an NGO as well. I might probe you on that later on, but thank you. And my second guest, can I invite you just to say your name, the organization, and again, I'm going to come back to him as to who inspired you in a moment, but I'm going to just go to you first of all. Just say your name and organization and who inspired you.
My name is Taqwa, and
Welcome.
it's actually pronounced Taqwa, but it's a bit difficult for non-Arabic speakers to pronounce, so I go with
Yes,
Taqwa
I
instead.
apologize.
It's okay.
Yes.
And currently, I live in Austria, and my background is computer science. So what I'm doing here is my master studies. I've been here for 6 months now, but I have lived most of my life in Sudan, and I left
Okay.
Sudan 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And for the question of who inspires me the most, I think I'm always inspired by the people that I meet in my daily life. And I don't like have very specific icons or idols, but I can say that I'm inspired even by the ones that I don't even know
Absolutely.
personally. Yeah.
Absolutely right. Absolutely, our faith is important to us all. Thank you, and Hen, who inspires you?
All women leaders I meet in my
Ooh,
life. So these could be my mother, they could be someone who was my manager once. So I'm very inspired by women. I think a great example would be Michelle Obama. I like her presence. I like how her introduce herself, and how articulate she is. So yeah.
Michelle Obama. Okay, now, if I may ask you, that's an interesting one. I didn't think you'd say that, which is just interesting. So I'm going to probe a little bit. So, what is about her? Because she is the wife of the president, as opposed to being the president. What is it about her that particular quality that you finding her that it's inspirational?
I think, I mean, despite that she's a wife of a former president, they always
Mm-hmm.
say behind every great man is a woman. And I think she was
Yes.
his ally from the start, but she also had a strong presence. She also cared deeply for a lot of issues. Her presence, the way she speaks, it's really, really kind of empowering, I think, for young African women everywhere, basically. So I
Yes.
think that's what I
Yes.
really like about her. She's also very approachable and very intelligent,
Okay.
which is an inspiration and motivation for all of us.
Absolutely right. Thank you for that. Thank you. What you describe, of course, is this. Uh, I always encourage, particularly young people I meet, to find a bond, get a bond. Okay. And you have a bond with your wife or your husband, and that is the foundation of your inner strength, and it allows you to have good faith in the Lord, of course, and Allah, and also, of course, just as important, you are motivated to succeed for your families. And of course, Barack Obama very much is a family man, dedicated to his family's growth. Absolutely. Well said, well said. And I'm now going to just move our conversation forward. And hopefully my third guest will arrive momentarily. My third guest. That's a hint for him eventually. By the way, let's move on. Let's move forward. So you've now described who inspires you. Okay. Both your names are interesting names. Okay? You have interesting names. Okay? And I know the tradition is that names have a connection either with a place or person or an event, and it's a source of inspiration. Okay. Okay. look, I'm going to be really honest with you. My middle name is Luther. Okay. My mother and father aspired that I would live up to the ideals of Martin Luther King. There you are. There you are. That's the public declaration for you. There you are. If that helps you, okay? So that's the declaration. I can't say I'm anyway compared to Martin Luther King, okay? But it could be its principles could be a reason for these podcasts, okay? And the principles that underscore these podcasts. Hen, please. What is the meaning of your name? Because I know I've done some research now, so you've got some interesting origins in your name. But you tell us what is the meaning of your names?
So Hind has so many names. So in literal
Yes,
Arabic, it means India, the country India, and that's how we
yes,
spell it in Arabic. It's Hind. But when you look at ancient Arabic as well, it means a group of camels. So I believe that's
okay,
how they would call a group of camels. In the
yes, okay,
desert, they would call them a Hind,
yes,
which is very, very interesting. And then
yes,
there's also another variation of it where people describe it as, or define it as a strong woman. So it's three different kind of interpretation to what the name means.
Thank you, thank you. How has that impacted you, if at all? Well, that understanding the origins and meaning behind your name, has it affected you in any way? I'm just asking at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we all try to live up our names or try to at
Yes.
least kind of embody the name that we have.
Mm-hmm.
My mom liked the name, so she named me that name. I don't think she dig deeper into what it means. I think she just
Okay.
liked the
Okay.
sound of it.
Uh-huh.
But when I was
I
looking
understand.
into the definition, I think
Yes.
Hind, which is India, which is travel, I think it's really interesting to see that this name derived from that country. I don't know exactly why is that, but I think also being a strong woman, whenever I try to find resilience, I try to think of my name. Okay, if my new name means
Oh, wow.
a strong
Yes.
woman, maybe
Yes.
I try to live up to that aspiration
Yes.
to
Yes.
some extent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think camels or a group of camels is also,
Mm-hmm.
camels are very strong animals
Yes.
and they live
Yes.
in really kind of dire situations and they basically live through it. So I think the strength is a theme that is occurrence with this name. I'm not sure if I've lived up to it until now, but I try to at least get inspired by it and motivated by it
Well
whenever
said.
I kind of remember that.
Well said. No, no. Well said. Well said. It's an interesting insight. Thank you. Thank you. And right, you're right. I'm now come back over to you. You're right. Your name is. I've heard the pronunciation, but I'm not going to pronounce it right now. Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you to share with us the meaning of your name, please, Takwa.
So my name Taqwa,
Takwa.
it,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
which can also be pronounced Dagwa. Like I try to make it into
Takwa.
two syllables to make
Mm-hmm.
it easier for people to pronounce. So Dagwa
Yes.
means,
Yes.
I think it means God consciousness, and it has
Ooh.
to do with being right or righteousness and so on. And I think because my father is really influenced by the Islamic religion, and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
he chose names that are tied with the Islam
Yes.
for me and for my siblings as well. But the
Yes.
interesting thing is that Tagwa is only my name on the official documents, and my parents have never called me Tagwa, so I have two names. And my other name, other non-official one, is called Amina.
Amina. Okay. Okay.
Amina,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And like most of my family members or cousins or the neighbors or people who know me outside of official things like work or studying, they know me by the other name Amina. And sometimes when someone calls me Tagwa, they get confused and they don't know that I have two names. Some few people
Okay.
know that I have two. And yeah,
Yes.
Amina means serenity. So I think
Yes.
I
Yes.
also try to live by the meaning of this name, as just
Mm-hmm.
Hint said, that sometimes you need to
Mm-hmm.
embody the meanings, and especially
Absolutely.
through hard times and when I needed to feel in peace
Mm-hmm.
and safe and serenity the most. So I try to remember what my name means and
Mm-hmm.
to try to live by it. So yeah, it's not an
Absolutely.
easy thing all the time, but
Mhm.
yeah,
I
that's
understand, and we all struggle to live up to our parents' vision, aspirations for us, and of course the names are our parents' ambitions for us. But I have to say to you that Takwa, Amina, your aura is peaceful, if I may say so. Okay, it is
Oh,
truly
thank you.
peaceful. It is truly peaceful. Okay, so that's it is good. It's a good aura. I'm going to say it. There you are. Official. It's now official. There you are. All right. There you go.
Yes.
Thank you for that, and thank you for sharing. Both of you for sharing that. It provides an opportunity for the audience to better understand you and your heritage. Okay, it really does. Okay. But my next question for you, and it is interesting, because bearing in mind that my audience is very much of the African diaspora. Okay, and there's a disconnect, particularly if you've been outside of the continent for more than a few generations. Okay, there's that continuity, and what I've found, and there are many out there who look to Africa, but the lack of knowledge is a barrier. Mhm. So it appears sometimes to be a distant place, a place that's too far. But actually, it is so close. Yep. And both you here in Europe, and you understand, you can see it for yourselves. So I'm going to ask you, please, to share aspect of your culture with my audience. Now, I'm always interested in traveling to other countries, but first of all, the question that always comes up: what is the food like in those countries? Okay, now I'm interested in food. I love food. Beautifully prepared food, and yes, I can become excited and animated when we discuss food. But I'm interested in your food, and which part of your cuisine is a particular favoritism to you. So if I go to you, Hans, I'm going to ask you from the food that your family will eat. Just give us some insights of the types of food, how it's prepared, and you might even indicate how it tastes as well. But give us some idea. Over to you.
Absolutely. I think
Mm,
food is a very important subject in every country, and I think Sudan has
mhm.
a kind of unique approach to food because of the location.
Yes.
So it's influenced by Middle Eastern cuisine, African cuisine.
Mm,
There's a lot of stews. So beef
yes.
and meat is an occurrence in our food. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
stews, and it's mainly consist of a base of onion, caramelized onion, tomato paste, and
Hmm.
beef, and then you add
Right.
different vegetables according to the taste or what you want it to look like.
Yes.
And mostly also we eat the stews with bread. So we have a type of a flat bread to some extent that we eat food with. So it's really important, and we eat it in every meal almost. The
Right.
bread is kind of also
Yes.
basic, and of course that also comes with a salad sometimes, a peanut butter salad. That's our most
Do
famous
you say
one.
peanut butter? Do you say
Peanut
real peanut
butter.
butter? Oh.
Yes, peanut butter salad. So we
Now,
just
now
add
you
it
would,
to.
yeah, tell us how you use peanut butter. That's an interesting one.
Absolutely. So the salad is chopped to small pieces, so of tomato, onion, and cucumber
Hmm.
mostly. So these are the basics. And you just add some peanut butter
Oh,
paste into it, and then you
right.
make this really nice salad that you can eat it whether with bread or with a spoon. And you add some sesame seed oil on top. I think sesame seed oil or sesame seed oil is also very important in Sudanese cuisine. So
Right.
we add it on top of some of our dishes, for example, beans.
Hmm.
We add that on top of it. So there's a lot of
Okay.
stews, there's a lot of salads, meat. Um,
Hmm.
Most of the food is warm as
Okay.
well. So we
Right.
don't have a lot of cold dishes except for
Okay.
salads, I would say.
And if I may, so that's an interesting quick canter across the cuisine. But which what would you describe are your favorite, your personal favorite, and why?
Sure. So my favorite would be the type of stew that we make with actually with chicken. So it's called
Okay.
dama, and I think the closest I can compare it with is the Indian dal. So it's very kind of similar texture, similar to taste to some extent. So of course it differs because of the spices that we use, but that's similar to it. And then we eat it with some sort of a bread, a flat bread called gurasa, which is also close to crepe, but it's more
Okay.
thicker in texture, which also looks like the paratha, which is also used in South East Asia, I would say. So
Okay.
yeah, that's my favorite dish. It's a very homey, filling dish. Yeah.
Ooh. Well, I look forward to have the opportunity to taste some of that food. I'm not inviting myself to your home, of course, but I'd love to taste some of that because I have been to some really interesting restaurants, and gosh, it's the richness. It's oh, anyway. As I said, I could become quite excited by that. To a man, it's his stomach, huh? There you go. I say no more. Can I go to you, Turk? Your give us some idea of the food that you eat and your favorite. Just give a quick canter through your cuisine. Yeah. Yes. Go
Um,
ahead. Yes. Yes.
so, just like Ken described it, and
Hmm.
besides that, what I wanted to say is that the Sudanese food is also a good match with the harsh conditions because we
Okay.
also dry the food. Like we use dried onions or dried okra, dried vegetables,
Okay.
and
Okay.
even the meats we dry so that it can sustain for longer periods of times and for
Okay.
the extremely hot weather of Sudan. And I would say my favorite is asida. Asida is a thick dough-like that we eat with different types of stews, and
Okay.
typically we cook it the most during Ramadan, the month of fasting. But at the
Okay.
same time, it can be eaten at any time of the year. So
Uh-huh.
that's mostly it. Yeah, we eat mostly with bread, different types of breads. We eat with our hands the most, and
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that's the thing about Sudanese food. So,
Okay. And again, your favorite amongst what you described there, and why?
um, I think because of the taste, and at the same time, I think I'm also linking it with the time I eat it the most, which is Ramadan, and I really enjoyed
Okay.
this month. So, yeah, so it has like memories tied to it besides the taste or
Okay.
the different
Yes. Yes.
variations of stews we can add it
Right.
to. So, yeah,
Right. I
Asida is not my
understand.
number one.
I understand, understand. And are there foods that specifically that might be eaten at a wedding versus other occasions, that distinctive food for weddings or other occasions, I wonder, for different times, different foods? Hmm.
Yes, in weddings, it's mostly the typical Sudanese food with
Hmm.
um, stews and bread, but at the same time, there is also the modern version of weddings where we eat like foods that is not typically non-Sudanese.
Okay.
Um,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I recall that also during funerals, like there are some also specific foods that is cooked the most,
Okay.
um, which is ligemat. Hint can also help me in describing what ligemats
Please,
exactly
please.
are, because
Yes.
they are cooked the most and then they're cooked in big amounts and they're
Right.
distributed among the guests and
Hmm.
also the neighbors and so on. So,
Okay.
how
I
do
will.
you think we can describe ligemat, Hint?
Uh, oh, she paused there.
That's a very yeah. I'm trying to think of how to describe it. It's goodness. So they're small kind of doves.
Okay.
They're almost like donut texture,
Yes.
Ah.
but they're very kind of round, and they're
Right.
very a bit mushy as well. So we
Right.
eat them mostly with tea. So it's most like a snack rather than a full meal. So that's the
Okay.
closest I could describe it. Yeah.
Ooh, okay, okay. And I noticed, so it wouldn't be salty or sugary, or would it be peppery? I'm trying to get a sense of the taste. Could
Sugary.
It's very,
Sugary. Oh, it is be sugary. Right. You
Yes.
both your eyes lit up there. Sugary. Right. Okay. Oh, right. You say. Ah. Okay. Oh, I see. So it's more like a treat. Very much like a treat. In other words. Yes, for youngsters. Okay, I hear you. Gosh. Okay, and it's interesting how you describe the food and when you might eat them and the flavors. It is interesting, and I think you're describing unleavened bread. So the bread is as you say, like a paratha. That you said, is that right? It's very similar to Indian paratha. Would that be right? Yeah.
Yeah, one
Yeah.
of the variations, yes, closer to
Mm,
burrata. It's called
mm,
gurasa.
mhm,
So that's
mhm.
close to it. And then we have another
Okay.
type of carbs that we eat it with stews. It's called kisra, and kisra is most like a crepe. So it's very kind of light
Uh huh. Okay.
way of eating,
Okay.
and it's salty, so it's not
Okay.
sweet like the
Okay.
crepe. Or even the
Okay.
paratha is more of on a salty side.
I
And then
understand.
we
Yes.
have a flatbread, which is it's more like, I would say, a bread that you find in the Levant, maybe. I don't know, Taqwa, if you would describe it differently, but it's
Right.
yeah, or like an Egyptian bread, but it's more thicker, so it differs. So when
Okay.
you look at it, you'll see that it's a bit different
I
than other
understand. Okay.
places. And
I
yeah, and I
understand.
think that's the creative thing about the bread. Although it's just
Hmm.
flour and yeast and water, you can
Uh-huh.
create different types of bread. So yeah.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's
Thank you.
very.
Uh-huh. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah.
Someone in the comments also pointed out that ligemat are basically Turkish, and I think this is something about
Okay.
us in Sudan, that we take different foods from different countries, and then we kind
Right.
of make our own version of that food, and
Right.
yeah,
So
so
Sudan, North Sudan is very much a melting pot of different people, different cultures. Would that be right? Yep.
yes.
Good, good, good. And that should give you such advantages over so many other societies I could mention, but let's not go there for the moment. It definitely should give you an advantage. Now, I can see my third guest has just arrived. If we bring him in, and hopefully we can bring him in without any hiccups here. And I believe we've got him there, and I'm going to put him in here. And here we go. Let's put him up here like magic. And we have him.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Good morning. Good
Magic.
morning.
The
Like magic, indeed.
motivator.
Ah, indeed. We've
Yeah.
got to maintain the pace here. It's good to see you. Well, I know you, and I know my guests will know you, but my audience may not recall you, despite your distinguished features. Okay, Justin, can I ask you quickly, Justin, just to quickly introduce yourself? So your name, the organisation. Okay, I'm going to ask you that question again. Who inspires you, Justin? Hmm.
Oh, that's an interesting question. Lots of
Hmm.
Pan-Africanists,
There you go.
including you.
Oh yeah. Okay. So just say
Yeah.
your name and organisation. Yeah, go ahead.
My name's Justin Gordon Mortad.
Mhm,
I work with the South Sudanese community in the UK, but I
mhm,
also work with a think tank called South Sudan People's Charter, among
mhm,
other things.
mhm.
We tend to I think both Sudans are in a terrible state, so there's so
Mhm.
much happening, and so we
Yes.
often are
Yeah.
doing our
Mm.
little contributions, if at all
Yes.
possible.
Yes. 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 And the who most inspires you? It could be a person. It could be an event. It could be a recollection of history. But what most inspires you? Who most inspires
His,
you?
history inspires me. I
Oh,
think
okay. Mhm.
you know, I always like Dr. John Hendrik Clark mentions the relationship between a people and their history. It's such a fundamental determining factor. It's like that of a child and a newborn baby, that of a
Yes.
mother and a newborn baby.
I understand. Yes.
So history is very inspirational, but we also, as a part of the world that has undergone so much, we look for
Mm-hmm.
political inspiration. So we have
Mm-hmm.
a host of people, Kwame Nkrumah. We have the likes
Mm-hmm.
of Thomas Sankara. A
Yes.
lot of wonderful people. Nigeria has also given us Chanuzu, and it's given us the likes of Wale Sayinki.
Mm-hmm.
I also like
Mm-hmm.
lots of writers, so we
Yes.
tend
Okay.
to go along with
So
those who resonate with our cause and our struggles. Yeah.
thank you, and that again provides the audience some insight as to what motivates you all, in fact, understanding who's your source of inspiration. And Justin, I've just got on to the point where I'd asked the lovely ladies here to describe food, and we're becoming quite animated, and I've become, well, I have to tell you, the Sudanese food is really, mm, I have to tell you, I've had the opportunity in the past 5 days to taste. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh! I'm from the Caribbean, and there are parallels, but God, there's a certain quality. Oh, anyway, but I don't want to ask you about food. I'm interested in clothing and dress, appearance. Okay, I'm going to start with you though, Justin. Let's continue with you for the moment because clearly I'm interested, particularly from the point of view of the types of clothing that is worn and why. And I'm going to give just for yourself, and I'll give the ladies a different scenario. If you were attending a wedding, okay, what would be the expected or traditional clothing to attend a wedding? And describe what it would look like and its significance.
Yeah, we have a bit of an issue because
Oh, okay. Oh dear.
obviously we haven't yet agreed on a national dress for South Sudan,
Ah, okay.
but it does resonate with. I don't know if you've seen what the Rwandans wear. The lawa we
The
call it
Lawa.
lawa
Mm-hmm.
in South
Mm-hmm.
Sudan. It's like you would wear a shirt and maybe a trousers, but then you would put
Mm-hmm.
like a cloth, like a bed sheet basically. You'll tie it
All
to
right.
your shoulder. It's
Okay.
very common among many of our communities in South Sudan. But
Mm-hmm.
again, ever since the nation became independent, it's still trying to find its feet. So the People's Charter is
Yes.
also
Yes.
working to try
Yes.
to designate what would be a national dress, but that represents all the corners of our country and the 64
Mm-hmm.
plus communities. So
Mm-hmm.
with the
Mm-hmm.
women, obviously, it would be an exciting thing because there's a lot of braids and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of bracelets. There's a lot of
Yes. Yes.
lots of beautiful stuff that women wear across the various communities of South Sudan.
Okay.
But
Okay.
again, the common thing would be the bed sheet sort of thing, which is embroidered or designed,
Right.
and it's
Right.
worn differently among some communities if you're a girl or if you're a wife or you're a married
Okay.
lady. But it
Yes.
is also
Yes.
worn by men. But then with the
Mm-hmm.
men, we would have to find another way. But generally, as Africans, we go with the African safari suits, which are
Right.
very
Okay.
common in East Africa and particularly
Yes.
Tanzania and Kenya. So we
I
tend to
would
do that. But
notice.
we are looking
Thank you.
for a national dress
Mhm. All right.
at our.
Well, you never know. We might have to create a competition here in that case. But me being so bored. Okay. Thank you, Justin. Can I go to Turkwan? Just to um, from your point, and the scenario for you is, of course, that you're going to visit friends. Yep. In the neighbouring village. Okay. What would be the appropriate dress and why? Give us some idea of the colours, the patterns, and the style.
Um,
Hmm.
I think if I want to do it the very traditional way, I would wear the Sudanese
Okay.
dress,
Okay.
the
Please.
Sudanese top,
Yes.
which is a
Yes. Yes.
sari-like. It's almost similar to the Indian sari, but the only
Mm-hmm.
difference is that sometimes we put part of it in our heads or just over our shoulders.
Uh huh.
So, but in the last maybe uh, I don't know 20 or 30 years, it became worn more by the married women instead of the single
Okay.
women. But at the same time, I don't think it's like a very strict to the married women's because
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
when I was in Sudan, like 2 years ago, I would still wear it if I want to go somewhere very close or if I just going to go there by just walking instead of having to like go for a longer distance, and it's also suitable for the weather that is mostly hot there.
Okay.
And
Okay.
there are different variations of colors and fabric textures, and yeah.
Right. So there's not a sort of color code, as it were. It is. It could be quite colorful, and the material qualities can vary. It's like silk to chiffon. Would that be right?
Yes, but for some occasions, white tops or dresses are worn.
Okay.
Like, for example, in funerals, we dress in white instead of black.
Okay.
And also in the official institutions like
Mm-hmm.
universities or office works, if
Mm-hmm.
married female employees decided to go with the traditional instead of like skirts or
Yes.
other dresses, they wore
Mm.
white
Okay.
tops.
Yes, that's a recurring colour. And thank you, thank you. I'm about to go to you, Hen, because we had the opportunity to have some discussion on this one. It was really interesting. As a result of our discussion, I was able to go away and do some research, so I'm now better informed. So thank you for getting you. I've been pointing in the right direction. So I will create the scenario for you, and that is, of course, that you and your friends are going to visit other friends. No, you're in Sudan now, and what will be the dress code appropriate for young ladies who are visiting other young ladies? Uh, what would be the traditional dress code, if there's any? Mhm.
I think besides top, there are so many variations of how
Mhm.
women dress. Of course, it
Mhm.
depends sometimes on their marital status. It
Yes.
depends
Mhm.
sometimes on the faith. So some people try to dress more modest, and to cover
Yes.
more. So some people would wear
Absolutely.
like a
Yes.
long
Yes.
kind of dress that is very loose fitting, but
Mhm.
mostly it will be a skirt and a shirt.
Mhm.
Um, and with a scarf on their head, whether it was on the head or in the shoulders. And that's kind of more of a cultural theme for women. So yeah, a
Okay.
skirt with a shirt. I think that will be the most common thing. Of course, it
Okay.
depends the colors and all of that. It depends on everyone and their taste,
Okay.
definitely. So yeah, it wouldn't be as cultural, but I think if you're going to a gathering where there's a mix of women, some of them are married and
Yes.
single and all, the married
Yes.
woman could wear their taupe as well, depending on the occasion. Is it at night or during the day? So yeah, it really varies. I wouldn't say there is
Mhm.
one way
Okay.
of dressing.
And would, if I may ask all of you, so would there be wide variations across the country? And first of all, if I focus on North Sudan, as today's show is really about North Sudan, would there be wide variation across North Sudan as to the type of clothing that a woman would wear, or indeed a man would wear? But would there be wide variation, or would there be generally a similar convention accepted by the people? Would that be right?
There's so many
Yeah, yeah,
different,
yeah.
yeah, there's
Mhm,
so many
mhm,
different
mhm,
ways of dressing across Sudan. I think we'll
mhm.
have to take another episode to go through how
Okay,
people
not a
dress in
problem.
the east
Right.
or the west, the north or the
Mhm,
south. There's so
mhm,
many variations and different styles that tweaks, but
mhm.
the taupe is what unites women
Ah,
as a
right. Okay.
dress. And
Right.
then the jalabia, which is kind of a loose fitting garment
Mhm,
that worn by men, is also
mhm,
what's unite them. No matter how they would, some people would put a vest in front of it, or like, I
mhm.
mean, on top of it in the East,
Yes.
but some people
Yes.
don't.
Right.
So it also depends. But I think the main thing we'll take is the taupe and the jalabia thingy. And of course, for formal occasion, as Justin said, which is
Mm.
the safari suit, which is worn
Safari.
in
Yes.
Sudan, South
Yeah.
Sudan,
Yes.
and in East Africa as well.
Yes.
So that's more of a formal attire for work and yeah, formal occasions.
Absolutely right. And of course, white being the conventional, because of course it's common sense if you think it through. White reflects light, and if you're in an area near the equator, the light is particularly intense. It makes perfect sense that you wear white and wearing black, which would absorb the heat and gosh, make a great difference. So it's common sense. Thank you. That's again a very useful insight. And in the just for the audience, in the re-edited version of this, images would appear on screen of the descriptions that my guests have made here, and will be quite exciting when you see the re-edited version. So this is really very interesting. I want to go on to
Can I,
another question.
can,
Yeah, of
can I
course,
be a
yes.
devil's advocate for 1 second?
Oh,
Sorry.
no devils here. There are no devils here. Okay, you can most certainly be an advocate, but not that person. No. But
No,
anyway,
no,
go
just
ahead.
slightly. I wanted to say, I don't know
Yes.
if the two other guests would agree with me that
Mhm,
politically, since '89,
mhm,
the Sudanese the sense of dress or the way they used to dress has changed drastically. Because one could even say since '83, with the induction of or the introduction of Sharia laws, Sudanese sense of dress has sort of become more conservative than it was. Would that be the case? If you guys could maybe chip in more, because the politics has clearly affected.
Okay. Yeah, I think if I may, Justin, I think that's right, and that kind of supports my research, and it's quite right that conservative dress is more appropriate in this setting. I'm going to let that question hang in the air. Okay, you've been an advocate, so that's okay. That other person, I'm not going to take. I'm going to let that question hang in the air. I'm just conscious of our time. You see, I'm going to just take us forward to the question I really want to put forward. Please, and just bear with me for a moment, Justin. And that is because you're all quite young. Okay, Justin, with your exception, of course, but you're all quite young. and we've learnt to listen carefully and observe carefully the needs of the young. Because ultimately, what we bequeath to you, is the legacy. Okay, understanding the young is essential. Okay, in my view. So North Sudan. Okay, I'm going to start with you, Henry, if I may. I want you to share with us, and I want us to avoid politics at all costs for now. I want to avoid that for now. Okay, I just want you to share a vision for North Sudan without being political. I just want you to share a vision. What would the society look like? That is North Sudan in a few years hence. Yeah, you tell us. What would your vision be for North Sudan?
In a nutshell, I would like to see a peaceful and happy society. And
Absolutely.
of course, that means it has to care for the society well-being. They're fulfilled, they're safe, they're secure, and whatever it comes with it. So that would be my vision for Sudan, considering the
Safe.
situation right now.
Yep, happy. When you say happy, what do you mean? Do you mean that you see someone on the street and you're cracking jokes with that person? What do you mean by happy?
I think happy is you become happy when your needs are met, where you
Okay.
see a future.
Yes.
Uh, if you're peaceful, if you can find justice, if you can rely on the society, if there is healthcare. So for the society to reach that level of happiness, a lot has to be said, and I think that's just a lazy answer. I think to kind of a
You're not
longer,
lazy.
detailed
Come on.
answer. But you wouldn't be happy if
Yes.
the society is not progressing, if the economy is falling down, if there's no kind of healthcare, if your well-being is not considered. So I think these are the things I'm kind of in the backdrop of that adjective
Okay.
is
Yep,
to see peace and to
absolutely.
see justice. Yeah.
Wonderfully said. And thank you. I made a note of that. And I know that those who are interested will pay attention. That's perfectly reasonable. Yep, perfectly reasonable. Uh, can I go over to you, Tokon? Just give us your vision for North Sudan. Again, I want to emphasize no politics. Just what would that society look like in your vision?
Um, for the last 2 years, they were really hard for Sudan. So what I envision in the future is that we build more together, and
Build more
we
together.
try to
Yep. Yep.
and try to learn from the. I mean, not just the 2 years, but from the history and the conflicts that happened, and whether they were tribal or even political. We don't know. We don't want to talk about politics, but at the same time, we also want to learn from all the revolutions and the protesting and the lesson learned, and then how we can also spend the coming years building more. So the building is the key word here. So yeah.
Build more together. Oh yeah, that's absolutely foundational. Okay, learn from the past. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah, and you ended up by saying that if we do this, we can have more together. Hmm. Absolutely. I think that's perfectly reasonable, Justin. That's perfectly reasonable, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why are you blocking the political commentaries?
Well, I want to, for now, we could do a third one, which can really focus on the politics. But it's important for the audience to appreciate the people. You might have heard it earlier part of my discussions, of course, is that the diaspora are lacking information about our peoples on the continent. Who are they? What do they eat? What are their traditions? How do they
Mm,
dress? You know,
mm,
just those basic human questions. Okay,
Sure,
and
sure.
we don't see enough of this even in social media. Okay,
Mm,
and I believe now that I've just started this journey, I'd like to do a profile of every ethnic group, every tribal group across the continent, really to understand them better, you know, and that rich diversity. But there's so much in common, you know. There's a
mm,
focus on what's the slight differences, but there's so much in common, you know. And listen to the
Absolutely.
discussion around food, and food is a great uniter, a great uniter. You know, if that's the hook that we need for create real African unity, then let's use this food. But I'm telling you, some of the food I've consumed this past few days prior to this interview, and let me tell you, that food, you know, if you were in Jamaica right now, I'm assuring you, every Jamaican man would line up to eat the food. Let me tell you. So there you are. You know, so let's be clear about that. So that it's a great uniter. We need to lower that veil so that diaspora can reconnect. I'm I'm I know that if we are to create a far more united Africa, we there has to be inclusive narratives, a narrative that values our differences, yeah, but also recognizes that uh, reasons why we have those differences is because we have been able to create for ourselves. But we use that as a component to create an even greater civilization that will most certainly astonish the world. So yes, vision is important. So I'm going to ask you the question, uh, Justin. What would be your future? And I'm going to be a bit naughty. I'm going to ask you to think in terms of both South and North Sudan. What would your
Sure.
vision be? Your vision be? Yeah, tell us your vision.
Right.
Without the politics,
Okay.
just tell us about
Mm.
the social norms, you know, what the relationships, you know, the customs that will enhance that unity. Tell us your vision.
No, thank you very much. And I want to thank my two
Hmm.
hosts here, presenters here.
Yes. Hmm.
I totally agree with both of them that the Sudanese, by nature, both North and
Hmm.
South, have beautiful
Hmm.
cultures, are
Yes.
very tolerant, very accommodating, very loving
Hmm.
people, and
Hmm.
we're very hospitable. Just to agree with you, and a famous African called Chinuzu, Nigerian, said
Yes.
there's a universal African culture from Cape Town to Cairo. What Africans have never done really is to look at culture as a unifying factor. And I
Hmm.
think when we
Hmm.
think of the Sudanese, although we broke the
Hmm.
country up, we're still
Hmm.
together in so many ways because there are
Yes.
cultural overlaps. There
Yes.
are similarities in our behavior, our kindness, our sense of accommodating one another, friendship,
Yes.
and valuing each other. So I think the Sudanese are
Yes.
famous across the world as kind
Hmm.
people, as
Yes.
very honest. So
Yes.
there are certain values and traditions that overlap both countries,
Hmm.
which have been destroyed, obviously, by politics
So
and
your
lack of.
vision in that case, then just tell us your vision now. Come on, I'm going to get you
Yeah, yeah,
pinned
I'm
down.
coming to the vision. The vision is to restore what is Sudanese, what
Okay.
is culturally intrinsic
Mm-hmm.
within our societies, and that was
Mm-hmm.
decapitated or quarantined or destroyed by countless political failures of the country. But in
All
terms of
right.
the future, definitely the future is in a greater Africa where we open our doors and appreciate the commonalities and oneness.
Yes.
And I think both Sudans, if we had the right political systems, would properly
Okay.
gel very well and economically
Agreed.
coexist.
Agreed. Thank you, and well said. Well said. We've got you there, and yes, that big vision is absolutely right. I like the word. Build more together. Yeah, I really like that. Build more together. You're quite right. You're quite right. Thank you. Thank you. Now that we're in that mindset, looking and considering the vision we have for the country, okay, are there countries on the continent mhm, of Africa that are potentially, or countries plural, that are potentially exemplars of the vision that you've outlined today? And Hen, let me go to you first. Just, are there countries on the continent or a country that really exemplifies, a good example of the vision that you've described? Mhm.
Um, I wouldn't be able to address this question without addressing politics of the countries, if I may
I'm
choose.
trying.
I will
Thank you,
try.
Hen.
I'll try
Thank you,
to look
Hen.
at. I think it's good to
I
have
don't
a
want to
balance
polarize anyone, you
between.
see. Forgive me. Really, why I've tried to avoid the politics for now. I don't want to polarize anyone in the audience, because this is just simply human expression at the moment. Okay, politics has a set of values embedded in it, but this is just human expressions, and I want it to be received by the audience, and their minds remain open. Okay, but if you wish to hint at politics, I don't mind. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ed. Go ahead.
Absolutely. No, I
Mhm.
wouldn't mention politics in details, but I think
Okay.
when I look at the countries where I want Sudan to become like, I would look at their direction because all
Yes.
African countries have their own challenges. So
Hmm.
I really like good leadership. So if I'm looking at good leadership and a good direction, I would look at countries like maybe Senegal or Burkina Faso because they seem to
Okay.
be becoming more self-sufficient. They're focusing on the economy. They're focusing on kind of uniting their countries together. Or whatever that might be for the next few years. So the direction that I see now, it's quite motivating, I would say, for Sudan to look and learn some lessons. Of course, there's so many areas where we can take some lessons. Tourism, we can look at
Hmm.
maybe Kenya or looking at other countries where done well in terms of promoting their countries,
Hmm.
looking at the economic growth. So I would say these are some of the few countries that I'm looking at.
Hmm.
There's good and bad in every country, so hopefully no one
Of
will come
course.
at me in the comments. Um,
That's what
but
I'm trying
I'm
to
just
avoid.
picking and
Yeah.
choosing areas where I
Yeah.
find really, really
Yes.
interesting in some
Yes.
countries.
Okay. You mentioned, thank you, thank you. You mentioned Burkina Faso. I've had to do a series of podcasts on Burkina Faso because it's their new leader. Although it is a military juncture, this is true. Captain President Ibrahim Traore, of course, is really very much on the self-sufficiency theme. Okay, is that what you are attracted by when looking at Burkina Faso? Greater self-sufficiency. They no longer have a national debt, for example. They no longer export their raw materials. It's always processed, so gain higher value for the materials. Is that what attracts you to Burkina Faso?
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't have to
Hmm.
be the state of the leadership. Of course, Sudan, we have had the burnt of military
Hmm.
leadership for
Hmm.
so long, which we're
Hmm.
traumatized by. But I'm just looking
Yes.
at the strategy for where can we head and just capitalizing on what we have in our country and think for the best. So it's really just that strategic thinking
Hmm.
that I'm looking at. I don't know everything about the country or the politics of it or how is it operating, but at least we can take some lessons here and there and take the good and leave the bad. So that's what I'm looking at. So looking at our depth, looking at how we collaborate, with other countries as well, how we collaborate with the West, and kind of reshape that relationship in a way that we don't neglect our countries, so we get to the
Yes.
point where we can grow and thrive beyond that growth. So that's just one area that I'm looking at. And I think in the case of Senegal, and just it's still very new, it's still a very new leadership, so we're yet to see. But having the country and the youth unite together and see that their future could lay in someone who is becoming a president for the first time, and also someone
Yes.
who's young and someone who has good agenda, I think that's also what attracts me, because in Sudan we lack unity for now. So I would like to see a united Sudan in the future, and maybe there's some lessons there we could learn from. So that's my approach.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. I always love listening to young people speak on these matters. Wonderfully said. Beautifully said. Thank you, Hind. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Can I go over to you? Same question, and that is, of course, is there a country or countries on the continent that are good exemplars that North Sudan should consider aspiring towards? Yeah, you tell me.
I think in the light of what's happening for Sudan in the last 2 years and the
Okay.
war and the continuing conflicts, the one
Yes.
that comes to mind is Rwanda, and especially
Okay.
in how they were able to transform post-genocide, and how they incorporated community-based systems, and
Yes.
they're dealing with the ethnic division, the tolerance with corruption, and also the spike in the economy after everything that has happened to them. So
Yes.
that's
Yes.
one of the examples that I think we can learn from our
Okay.
African neighbors, and
Okay.
we can learn
Okay.
from our own selves as well, and we can learn from the other countries' stories. So
Yes.
yeah.
Could you still on your theme, build more together and learn from the past, or indeed contemporary, but the contemporary times? Is there a specific lesson from Rwanda that is really a marker for you as to why Rwanda is an example for you? Is there a particular lesson? That,
I think it's the issue of the ethnic division, especially
okay,
that we in
yes,
Sudan are also, up until this
absolutely.
day, still struggling with this. We have so
Yes,
many tribes, and
yes,
um, it's a good thing to like have all this variety and different cultures within the one country, different local languages and everything. But at the same time, it
yes.
has also contributed so much to um, the ongoing issues and
Mm-hmm,
conflicts. And
mm-hmm.
in Rwanda, it was also one of the major playing role on
Yes.
why the genocide started at the first place. So I think that's mostly what
Yeah, you're
I
right. You
think
are
of when
right.
Rwanda comes to mind. But,
If you don't mind, if I just ask you further follow up on that, because it's a really important point. It's non-political, and what you are is a young person making an observation, and you want the same for your own country. Okay. Um, I use the term inclusive narrative so you can appreciate your neighbours, even though you may not be the same group, but you appreciate them. What have you observed in Rwanda, um, or the methods used by the Rwandans to overcome the the atrocity of the past? What have they done? What you've observed that you could that technique or that strategy could be taken and used in Sudan, in the Sudans. We use a plural, the Sudan. There you are, Justin, the Sudan. What have you observed that the Rwandans have done that enable that peace to happen?
um, I can't think of something specific, but always what comes to mind is the comparison between before and after, before the genocide and after
Very good.
genocide,
Yes.
because
Yes.
we're still in Sudan, and at some points when I'm not very optimistic, I can't even think of how we would be able to actually solve this issue, or how the Sudan will be like when these
Yes.
divisions are not existing, because
Absolutely
there
right.
are still things that we deal with every day and for centuries. But when I see other examples, I'm actually not sure exactly how Rwanda has addressed this, but the
Okay.
comparison between before and after is really fascinating for someone who's coming from Sudan.
It is well.
Sadly,
Don't worry. Don't worry. The whole purpose of these interviews is to stimulate inquiries. To stimulate inquiry, and for the words you've uttered to be a source for action. Okay, so the tag name for these podcasts are the Motivator Show. This is where we translate words into action. Okay, so we're no longer simply passive observers, but we're inquirers. And through that inquiry, we learn. And we take what we learn and we translate it into action. We deploy it in our own context to achieve similar, if not the same outcome, where you've seen better. Okay? That's African unity. So I give